All right, we're going to find confidence intervals using a t-table. And for this first problem, we're just going to calculate the margin of error like we did the margin of error for the previous questions. But this one uses the t-table instead of the z-table. Table looks like this. It's in your packet. You can also Google it, t-distribution. Table, very common. They're all over the place out there. And these scores that we read in this table will replace those z-scores that we calculated for the last ones. They're done a little differently, and it's actually a little bit easier. This is used when we don't know the population standard deviation. We're given S instead of sigma, which is a sample standard deviation. That's what makes this distribution probably a little more useful, because you're more likely to have the standard deviation of the sample that you just took instead of having the population standard deviation, because you don't have the population mean. That's why we're doing a confidence interval to begin with. And you need a population mean to calculate a population standard deviation. So I don't know what kind of scenario would give you one but not the other. But anyway, this is what you're going to see probably more often. It's for smaller sample sizes, usually less than 30, and for S instead of sigma, sample standard deviation. The error formula is very similar, only it's T sub C times the standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. So the T replaces the Z, the S replaces the sigma. We're going to look up the T in our table. You only need two things for that. You can see across the top you have the confidence intervals listed. Down the side you have something called DF, degrees of freedom. DF is calculated this way. DF is equal to n minus 1. So for our problem, the DF, the degrees of freedom, are 16 minus 1. So we have 15 degrees of freedom, and we have a confidence interval of 95%. So that is 15 and 95 right there, 2.131. That is our critical value, T sub C. Now we use that to find our error, which is now T sub C times the standard deviation 2.7 divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 16. And let me see what that comes out to. .44. So that's all that problem is asking for, is the margin of error. In the next problem, we're going to use that to find our confidence interval.